the snowstorm came fast. One moment, the sky was clear and quiet, and the next, the wind screamed across the frozen hills. Cal stood at the edge of his small cabin, squinting through the swirling snow. He had seen storms like this before, blinding, biting, and deadly. But this one felt worse, deeper, colder, like something inside. The wind didn't want anyone to survive. He tightened his coat and stepped out to check the generator behind the house. His boots crunched through the thick white layer, and his breath turned to fog in the air. Frostron was a hard planet with long winters and short summers. Cal had chosen this life to be alone, far from the busy worlds, far from noise and war. Just him, the trees, and silence. But today, silence wasn't what he found. As he rounded the corner of his cabin, he spotted something strange near the edge of the tree line, a shape in the snow. Then another. Blinked, rubbed his eyes, and hurried forward. Two small bodies were half buried in the snowdrift. Thin limbs, strange skin, glowing faintly blue under the frost. They weren't human. What the hell? Cal dropped to his knees. He reached out and brushed the snow away. From the first one, she was older, maybe a teenager by her kind's age, with long silver hair stuck to her face. Her eyes were shut, lips cracked, and her fingers curled like claws frozen in place. She was barely breathing. The second one was smaller, younger, curled. Up beside the older girl, using her sister's body to stay warm. Her skin was even paler, and her chest moved so slowly Cal feared it would stop any second. They were dying, Cal didn't think. He moved fast. He pulled off his coat, wrapped it around both of them, and lifted them into his arms. They were light. Too light. It felt like carrying two frozen birds. He kicked the cabin door open and rushed inside. The warm air from the fire hit his face. But it wouldn't be enough. He placed them both on the thick rug near the fireplace and grabbed every blanket he could find. He wrapped them tightly, one by one, making sure their hands were covered. He boiled water, filled 2 mugs with broth, and knelt beside them, gently tapped the older one's cheek. "Come on," he whispered. "Stay with me." Her eyes fluttered, just barely. He touched her hand and she weakly gripped his fingers. Her skin was like ice. Cal leaned closer and said slowly, "You're safe. Don't sleep." He lifted her head and gave her a spoonful of warm broth. It was messy, but she swallowed. The younger one stirred next, letting out a tiny whimper, her head still resting against her sister. For the next few hours, Cal did not leave their side. He dried their soaked clothes and dressed them in his old shirts and pants. They looked strange in human clothes, too big and loose, but at least they were warm.
Del.
The older sister opened her eyes again. Her gaze was cloudy, her lips moving slightly. She tried to speak in her language. It was soft and broken, like a song from another world. Cal couldn't understand, but he nodded gently. "You're safe," he repeated. "Just rest. You're going to be okay." She blinked slowly, then passed out again. Cal stayed awake the whole night. The storm outside roared louder, shaking the windows and covering the world in thick white snow. But inside the cabin, the fire burned strong, and the 2 sisters began to breathe deeper, their skin turning a healthier color. He checked on them every few minutes. He gave them sips of water, wiped their foreheads, and made sure the blankets didn't slip. At one point, the younger one opened her eyes and stared at him. Her eyes were large violet and glowing slightly. Her gaze was full of fear at first. But then, something else. Curiosity. She didn't speak, but she didn't look away either. "Hey there," Cal said softly. "You're going to be okay." She blinked once, then closed her eyes again. By morning, the storm had passed. Sunlight peeked through the frost-covered window. The cabin was quiet except for the crackling fire. Cal sat on the wooden floor, rubbing his sore back and arms. He felt tired, but calm. Something deep inside him shifted. This wasn't what he expected when he chose this lonely world. He had planned to live a life without people, without trouble. But now 2 strangers from another world were sleeping in his home, and he couldn't just send them away. He stood up and looked around. He would need to find more food, build a second bed. Maybe fix the radio to check for any signals from nearby settlements. But all of that could wait. For now, they were safe. And that was enough. He knelt beside them once more and gently tucked the blankets closer. The older sister stirred and whispered something. It sounded like a name. Lyra, he guessed. Is that your name? She gave a slow nod. Okay, Lyra. And your sister? Her lips moved. Zany Kel smiled. Lyra and Zany. I'm Kel. She looked at him, confused at first, then whispered, Cal. It was the first human word she had spoken. It made his chest feel strange, warm. The fire crackled again, and the snow melted slowly on the roof. Outside, the world was still frozen, but inside the cabin, something new had begun. The next few days moved slowly, but Cal didn't mind. The storm outside had passed, but a thick layer of snow still covered the world. Frostwind stayed frozen for months, so he wasn't expecting help anytime soon. That didn't matter now. Had a new purpose to take care of the two alien girls who were slowly healing inside his cabin. Lyra, the older sister, was the first to gain her strength. She moved slowly, always careful, but she began to help with small things. When Cal handed her a bowl of warm soup, she nodded and whispered, "Thank you." It was simple, but hearing her speak even a little human language filled the room with hope. Zena, the younger one, was still shy. She didn't talk much and stayed close to Lyra at all times. Sometimes she peeked at Cal from behind her sisters, shoulder-wide eyes blinking slowly. She clutched a soft old pillow Cal had given her as if it was treasure. Cal began to label things in the cabin to help them learn his language. He stuck small pieces of paper on the table, chair, door, and cups. When he said the words aloud, Lyra repeated them carefully. Zany only listened at first, but one evening, when Cal pointed at the fireplace and said, "Fire," Zany quietly echoed the word in a soft voice. They were learning. But Cal was learning too. They watched how they moved, how they acted around each other. They had strange habits like always touching each other's hand before eating, or humming a soft sound before going to sleep. It seemed like these things brought them comfort. Cal didn't ask why, just accepted it. One day, while boiling water, Cal saw Lyra standing by the window. She was wrapped in one of his large coats and staring at the snow outside. "You okay?" Cal asked. She nodded slowly, cold but safe. Cal smiled. It's always cold here, but I'll keep the fire going." She looked at him for a moment and then asked, "You? Alone?" He nodded. "Yeah. Been alone for a long time." She tilted her head. "Why?" Cal stirred the pot before answering. "It's quiet here, remember. War, no cities, no orders, just peace." Lyra seemed to understand. Her eyes softened. Peace is good. After that, the sisters began helping more. Lyra cleaned the cabin, folded blankets, and even tried to sweep the wooden floor with Cal's old broom. Zany helped too, though she often got distracted by drawing pictures with a piece of burned wood on scrap paper. Zany drew pictures of the cabin of Lyra and herself, sometimes of all three of them standing together near the fire Cal kept. Those drawings safe. As the days passed, their bond grew deeper. Lyra started cooking small meals using local roots and dried meat, learning from Cal's example. She wasn't great at it, but Cal appreciated the effort. One time, she burned a pot of stew and Zany burst out laughing for the first time. It was a small, high-pitched laugh that echoed through the cabin like a song. Cal had never heard something so pure on Frost. WYN.ZEN. I grew more confident. She followed Cal around while he chopped wood outside. She asked questions in broken English. "Why axe heavy? Why snow always?" Cal answered everything with patience. "The axe is heavy because trees here are strong," he said. "Snow always," she repeated. "Because Frostwind likes to sleep," Cal said with a smile. "This is her blanket." Zany giggled and repeated, "Frostwind sleep." Inside the cabin, warmth returned. Not just from the fire, but from something deeper: companionship. 1. Night, after a quiet dinner, Lyra sat beside Cal and held out a piece of cloth she had sewn using Cal's old clothes. It was a small banner with 3 figures stitched into it, 1 tall and 2 small, human and 2 alien girls standing under stars. Family, she said. Cal didn't know what to say. The word made something stir in his chest. He had never thought of himself as family to anyone before. Not since his parents passed. Not since the war ended and he walked away from everything. He nodded slowly. Yeah, family. Zany, already curled up in her blanket, whispered, "Family safe." Those words stayed with Cal even as he lay in bed that night. Outside, snowflakes tapped gently on the windows, but inside there was peace. A peace Cal had never known. The next morning, Lyra surprised Cal again. She pointed at the radio set. In the corner of the room, help. Cal looked at it and sighed. It's broken. Hasn't worked in a year. Lyra frowned. Can fix, he shook his head. Maybe I'll try. Cal spent the afternoon taking the radio apart. Wires were old. Some were fried. He had limited parts, but maybe, just maybe, he could get it running again. Lyra and Zany watched as he worked, handing him tools and wires when he needed them. Cal noticed something else during that repair session. How the sisters leaned on each other, supported each other without words. Their bond was strong, maybe. Stronger than anything Cal had ever seen. They were survivors. Just like him that night. They all sat near the fireplace again. Cal handed them cups of warm tea made from dried herbs. Lyra looked up and asked, "What?" "Name Calvin," he said, "but most call me Cal." Lyra nodded. Cal Zany smiled. "Cal, good name." He laughed. "Thanks." Lyra placed a hand gently over his. "Cal safe." He looked at her. Her eyes were serious, calm, and full of something else, trust. "And you too," Cal said, "are safe here, I promise." And as the fire glowed in the center of the room, the cabin no longer felt small, no longer cold. It felt full, alive, for the first time in years. Cal felt like he wasn't just surviving, he was living. The snow stayed thick on the ground, but the air inside the cabin was always warm now. Cal had added more logs to the fire, fixed the cracked window near the corner, and even used old cloth to block the cold from sneaking in through tiny gaps in the walls. But the real warmth didn't come from fire or blankets. It came from something else, something quiet and steady. It came from the 2 alien sisters who filled the silence with laughter, smiles, and life. Zany had grown bold. She no longer hid behind her sister's shoulder. Instead, she danced around the room with her little feet tapping the floor, drawing stars on the wooden walls and singing soft tunes in her own language. Cal didn't understand the words, but the sound made him smile every time. Lyra was different, gentler, quieter, but she watched everything. She was smart. When Cal taught her a word, she remembered it. When he showed her how to cook something, she tried it again later without needing help. She even fixed one of his broken boots using thread from his old coat. It didn't look perfect, but it worked. One morning, Cal woke up to find the table covered in cloth. The sisters had taken his torn shirts and old curtains and stitched them together into something beautiful. Simple patterns, warm colors, small flower shapes. It made the whole room feel more like a home. "You did this?" Cal asked. Lyra nodded. "Home must feel safe." "Safe and warm," Zany added. "It does," Cal said, looking around. "It really does." Sometimes when the snow wasn't too strong, Cal took them outside. He showed them how to wear the thick boots, how to walk on slippery ground, and how to catch snowflakes with their hands. Zany loved it. She would spin in circles with her mouth open, trying to catch the flakes on her tongue. Lyra didn't play as much, but she smiled while watching. Zany, they made snow shapes together, not quite snowmen, some looked like tall animals or stars. Cal had no idea what they were, but the sisters giggled each time they built one. One afternoon, while they sat near the fire, Zany crawled beside Cal and pointed at his old photo on the wall. It showed Cal in a soldier's uniform, standing beside a ship. "You soldier?" she asked. Cal nodded slowly. A long time ago, fight? She asked. Yes, but I don't want to anymore. Lyra, sitting nearby, spoke softly. You leave war? I did, he said. I was tired. I wanted peace. That's why I came here. Lyra looked thoughtful. You too run from war. Cal turned toward her. What happened? Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Our home. Fire. Ships came. People. Taken. Some. Gone. We ran. Zany hugged her sister tightly, hiding her face. You found each other, Cal said gently. Lyra nodded. Yes. Only. We too. They sat in silence for a while, the fire crackling softly. I'm glad you made it here, Cal said. I'm glad you're alive. Lyra looked at him with eyes full of quiet emotion. Because of you. That evening, Cal found a new drawing tucked into the edge of the table. Zany had drawn 3 figures, a tall one in the middle, with 2 smaller ones holding his hands. Around them, she drew a house, a fire, stars above, and a word she had copied from the wall. Family. He didn't say anything, but he folded the paper and placed it inside a wooden box. He couldn't explain why it meant so much, just knew it did. Days passed like this, quiet, gentle, full of small joys. They shared meals, worked together, cleaned, and learned from each other. Cal began to forget what it felt like to be a lone one. Night, the power went out. The fire kept them warm, but the lights were gone. Cal checked the generator. It had frozen again. He sighed and went back inside. No light? Zany asked, her voice small. Nope, just firelight tonight. Lyra moved. Beside him, it's okay, we know. Dark. They all gathered near the fireplace. Cal lit a few candles, and the room glowed with a soft golden light. Lyra brought over a pot of stew, and Zany grabbed old cups for tea. Cal smiled. Even without power, they made the place feel alive. Let's tell stories, Cal said. Zaina's quotes. Face lit up stories. Cal began with one from Earth, a tale about a boy who followed a star and found treasure. He used his hands to act it out, and Zany giggled. Then Lyra told a story from her world using soft words and gestures. It was about a tree that sang songs and protected children from cold winds. As she spoke, the wind outside howled, but inside, there was only peace. When the stories ended, Lyra turned to Cal. In our world, if someone saves your life, we stay with them. Cal looked at her. What do you mean? We belong together, she said quietly. Not because we must. Because we choose. Zany nodded. You saved us. We choose you. Cal didn't speak at first. His heart felt heavy and warm at the same time. I didn't save you for anything in return, Lyra smiled gently. We know. Zany took his hand, but still, we stay. The firelight danced on their faces, casting soft shadows. And in that moment, Cal knew something had changed, not suddenly, but slowly, like the snow melting in spring. They weren't just guests anymore. They were his family, and he was theirs. The snow outside began to soften. Frost still clung to the trees, but the sun peeked through more often now. Cal could feel the slow change. Frostwind's long winter was not over, but spring was trying to wake. Inside the cabin, the air was different too. Not just warm, but filled with something calm and strong, like roots growing under the floor. Cal noticed it in the small things. How Lyra always made sure he ate first. How Zany leaned her head against his arm when they sat near the fire. How both sisters began humming a soft melody every night before bed. Their voices blending like wind through leaves. Cal didn't ask questions. He just let things be. But one morning, Lyra came to him, holding a folded cloth in her hands. She sat across from him at the table and gently placed the cloth down. Zany stood behind her, quiet, her hands folded in front of her chest. We speak now, Lyra said. Cal looked up from his cup of tea. Okay. Lyra unfolded the cloth. It was a long woven band with soft colors, blue, silver, and white. In the center was a symbol, a circle wrapped around 2 stars. This, she said, pointing, is Bondmark. From our home. Cal nodded slowly. It's beautiful. It is given to Lifebinder, she continued. One who saves, who protects, and one who we choose. Kel didn't speak right away. His fingers touched the edge of the cloth. The fabric was smooth, the threads fine. It felt like more than just a gift. You made this? He asked. We both did, Lyra said. Xena smiled softly. For you? Lyra met his eyes. You are a Lifebinder. We are your chosen. Cal's eyebrows lowered. What does that mean? Lyra was silent for a moment, then spoke carefully. In our world, there is old rule. If someone saves others from death and gives shelter and warmth and no harm, they may be offered bond. It is not forced. It is asked. Zany added. We ask. Cal leaned back, his mind spinning slowly. So, you're saying? This is your way of offering to stay? Lyra nodded. To stay. To belong. To be yours, as family, asked. As heart, Lyra said. Like closest bond. Like home. Zany looked at him with big eyes. We not just want safety, we want you. Cal looked between them. He had felt something growing, yes, the way they looked at him, how they listened, cared, touched his hand, or brought him warm food first. But hearing it said, clearly like this, it made his heart beat differently. Are you sure? He asked, voice low. You don't feel like you owe me? Lyra placed her hand on his. No debt. Lee, choice. Zany nodded. We choose. Cal looked down at the bond mark, then back at their faces. His cabin had been empty for years. His life had been quiet, peaceful, and lonely. He never thought he would share it like this. But now, he couldn't imagine the space without them. Their voices, their warmth, their presence. He touched the cloth again. What do I do if I accept? Lyra smiled. You where? We live as one. Share work, share food, share warmth, share heart, share heart. Cal closed his eyes for a second, then opened them. Okay? Lyra blinked. Okay? He nodded. Yes, I accept. A quiet joy filled the room. Zany gave a soft cheer and hugged him tightly. Lyra stood and tied the bond mark around his wrist with slow care. Once it was secure, she kissed the center of the cloth gently. It was a small, graceful gesture, more a sign of respect than anything else. Now we are joined, she said. Joined, Zany repeated. The rest of the day felt brighter. Lyra hummed while cooking. Zany danced across the room, placing flower-like drawings on the walls. Cal felt different, like he had stepped into a new life. Not a sudden one, but one that had been waiting for him to say yes. That night, they sat near the fire again, the same place where the story began. Cal looked at his wrist, then at them. What does your people call this bond? He asked. Lyra answered. Life bond. It is rare. Only made when souls fit. Cal smiled. What? And you think I fit? Lyra looked into his eyes. We know. Later, when they all lay down for sleep, Cal felt a soft weight against his side. Zany had curled up beside him, her small hands clutching his shirt. Across the room, Lyra rested on the second bed, facing him, her eyes calm and sure. The fire crackled gently, and outside, snow melted drop by drop. Inside, three souls rested, no longer strangers. No longer alone, just one small family, bound by kindness and a thread of hope. The snow was melting slowly now. Patches of brown ground appeared between white hills. Water trickled down the edge of the cabin roof, forming tiny rivers across the dirt. Frostwind was changing, and so was everything inside Cal's cabin. Cal had never lived with others before, not like this. The sisters were not just guests anymore. They had made his home brighter, cleaner, and full of warmth. Every day felt lighter. There was a rhythm to their life now. They cooked together, fixed tools, and shared stories by the fire each evening. Cal still woke up early to chop wood, but now Lyra often joined him, as he was learning how to swing the axe not with power, but with care. She watched closely and copied his movements. She wasn't strong yet, but she never gave up. Cal admired that Xena had taken over the inside chores. She cleaned, folded blankets, and tried new recipes using roots and spices Cal didn't even remember storing. Sometimes the food was strange, but he ate every bite. She always looked so proud. One morning, while Cal worked outside, he sat on a log and watched the sky. Birds were flying back, small and fast. It was a sign of the new season. He stared at the trees and thought about how quiet things used to be. Cold, empty, and now the air smelled like cooked bread. Someone always laughed inside his house. When he walked back into the cabin, Zany ran up to him. "We made something," she said. Lyra stepped forward with a folded blanket in her arms. She opened it to reveal a new piece of cloth similar to the bond mark, but bigger. It had 3 shapes stitched into it, 1 tall and 2 smaller, standing under a roof. "Oh, this is housemark," Lyra said. "For shared life." Cal ran his hand over the fabric. "You two really don't stop making beautiful things. You want to build," Lyra said. "Make this place ours." "It already feels like ours," Cal said. Senna beamed. "Then let's do ceremony." Cal blinked. "Ceremony?" Lyra nodded. "It's tradition. In our culture, after bondmark, there is joining. Small ritual. Simple, but special." "What kind of ritual?" Cal asked. "We speak words. Place hands together. We're housemarked for 1 full day." Cal looked down at his wrist, where the bond mark still rested. It was warm, not just from heat, but from meaning. Every thread reminded him of what he had gained. He looked at both sisters. "You really want this?" Lyra stepped closer. "You gave us life, Cal, not just survival. You gave us home, safety, smiles. We want to stay. We want you." Nee nodded. "We choose you every day." Cal's voice was quiet. "Then let's do it." The 3 of them went outside later that day. The sun was gentle, the wind no longer harsh. They stood near the old tree behind the cabin. Cal had cleared a small spot of snow earlier. Got it. And now it held 3 flat stones shaped like a circle. Lyra placed the housemark blanket on the largest stone. "You speak first," she said to Cal. Cal thought for a moment, then said, "You both came into my life during a storm. I didn't know what would happen, but now I can't imagine this place without you. I choose you too." Lyra smiled and placed her hand over his. "We give thanks," she said. "We share path. We join in peace and promise." Zany placed her hand over theirs. "We make warmth." Together, the moment was simple. No loud music, no crowd, just soft wind, 3 hands, and the sound of snow dripping from branches. When they returned to the cabin, Cal placed the housemark blanket on the wall above the fireplace. It was their symbol: survival, choice, and family. That night, as they sat near the fire, Zany leaned against Cal's arm and asked, "What now?" Cal smiled. "Now we live together forever," she asked. He nodded. "As long as you want?" Lyra looked at him. Forever is good. They didn't need anything more. Not big cities, not ships, not gold. They had each other. In a cabin on a frozen world, they had found something most people searched for their whole lives: peace. Outside, the first flower pushed up through the snow. Inside, a new life had already bloomed. Frostwind's deep white coat began to vanish as the days grew longer. The wind still carried a chill, but the sunlight felt stronger now, touching the trees and melting what was left of winter's grip. Grass peeked out through the soft ground, and tiny blue flowers bloomed near the edge of Cal's cabin inside. The change was felt to Cal's, whose home was no longer just a quiet shelter. It was now full of gentle voices, soft footsteps, and the sound of life. The wooden walls held the scent of food and fresh cloth, and the floors were always swept clean by Zany, who had made it her personal mission to keep everything in order. Cal stood near the window one morning, sipping warm tea, as Zany hung freshly washed blankets to dry. She hummed softly while she worked, her long silver hair tied back with one of his old strings. Every now and then, she glanced at him and smiled. Behind him, Lyra was repairing the handle of a drawer. She used thin wire and careful hands, focused like always. She had become the quiet strength of the home, always watching, always fixing, always steady. Cal turned around and looked at them both. "We've built something real here," he said. Lyra looked up. "Yes, this is home," Zany added. "We are not lost anymore." The three of them sat together after breakfast, making plans. Cal wanted to expand the cabin, build a second room. Maybe a greenhouse for growing food. The sisters had ideas too. Zany wanted to paint the outside walls. Lyra spoke of planting soft-light trees near the back, the kind from her world. If they ever got seeds again, they were planning for the future. "It's funny," Cal said. "I thought I would live alone forever." Lyra looked at him with calm eyes. "Life changes, even when we do not ask." "But sometimes," Zany added, "it changes for good." Cal agreed. He could feel the change deep in his bones. He had once chosen Frostwind to escape war and noise. He came here to be forgotten. But now he was remembered, needed, chosen. One afternoon, while gathering fallen branches from the forest, they heard a strange hum in the distance. A ship. Cal looked up, his eyes narrowing. It was a small scout vessel. Nothing dangerous, but unexpected. He quickly guided the sisters back into the cabin. He stood by the window, watching the ship land near the edge of the clearing. "Do you think they followed us?" Zany asked, worry in her voice. "No," Lyra said. "Too small. Not a warship." Cal stepped outside carefully. The ship opened slowly, and a single figure stepped out. It was a trader and neutral traveler who had visited Frostwind once a year. "Before the storms began, you're still alive," the trader said with surprise. "We thought Frost took you." Cal nodded. "I'm still here." The trader looked past him. "Are those aliens with you? Family?" Cal said calmly. The trader blinked, but said nothing rude. He simply nodded and smiled. "Well, good for you. I brought seeds and tools. I thought maybe the old cabin could use supplies." Cal bought what they needed and sent him off with a promise to stay quiet about his guests. The trader agreed, saying no one cared about Frostwind anyway. When the ship was gone, Cal returned to the sisters. "We're safe," he told them. They relaxed, and Zany jumped into his arms with joy. "You protected us again," Cal smiled. "I always will." As the weeks passed, the cabin became something even greater. Cal and Lyra built a new room using wood from the forest. It wasn't perfect, but it was strong. They made a shared workshop for repairs and sewing. Zany painted the outside walls with symbols from her world: stars, circles, vines. The colors stood out against the gray sky. One day, a soft rain fell. It wasn't like the icy storms of winter. This rain was gentle, warm, the kind that soaked into the earth and woke up sleeping roots. They all stood outside and let the rain fall on their faces. Zena spun in circles, laughing. "This is the best day." Lyra reached out and held Cal's hand. "This is our spring, our beginning," Cal said. That evening, they sat together by the fire. Cal wore the bond mark on his wrist, and the house mark still hung proudly. On the wall, they shared warm bread, sweet root tea, and laughter. "Do you ever wish things were different?" Cal asked softly. "No," Lyra said at once. "I would not trade this for anything, not even your old world," he asked. Lyra shook her head. "Our world is here now." Zany nodded. "With you." Cal leaned back and closed his eyes. A moment he remembered the day he found them, cold, weak, nearly gone. And now they were strong, full of joy, and full of light. He opened his eyes and looked at them. "Thank you for staying." "Thank you," Lyra said, "for giving us reason." "And warmth," Zany added. Outside, the rain stopped. The stars appeared, and the wind was soft again. They didn't need more than this. No big ships, no loud cities, no fancy titles. They had found peace in the most unlikely place, and in a cabin deep in the cold woods of Frostwind, a man and two alien sisters sat together, joined not by blood, but by choice, care, and something stronger than all love, without needing to speak the word. Because sometimes Family finds you in the snow. And sometimes, when you open your door to save someone, you end up saving yourself too.